Welcome to Section 420, Talking Yankees, the podcast. Well, a lot going on in Yankee land. Almost have an opportunity to sweep the Detroit Tigers, but happily take 3 out of 4, which I will take just based on how the Yankees been lately. Taking 3 out of 4 there. But a lot of big news off the field that we will finally see the debut of Jason Dominguez, as well as Austin Wells being called up for the Houston series. And if that's not even good enough, the Yankees do eventually part ways with Harrison Bader. Again, the previous episode kind of mentioned that they released Donaldson. Bader was put on waivers. Again, that's kind of a move that needs to be made by the end of August. And of course, I guess the Reds became the team that claimed them on the last day of August. So Bader will now go to the Reds. And so bye-bye Bader for the Yankees there. So a lot going on in Yankee land. So we'll get into all of it. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Got a whole month and change left of baseball. And of course, we're going to have the debut of Dominguez. And again, we're going to have the second wave of baby bombers, even though I don't want to use that term because it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of like people like Gary Sanchez. But nevertheless, that's where we're going here. So in order to get all that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Section 420, Talking Yankees, the podcast, and also available on YouTube. Not as often, but again, there's episodes there of Section 420, Talking Yankees. So hop over there, subscribe to that as well, and be a full-fledged Section 420 Talking Yankee-er person, if that's even possible. So nevertheless, I mentioned when the Yankees go to Detroit, if they don't come out of here with like only 1 win or even 2 wins, I'm going to go nuts. So the Yankees did a bit of that. They actually took 3 out of 4. Was supposed to do a team that's 10 games worse than you are. I think the last series they won, I'm just trying to look back. It's probably against the Kansas City sweep at home. I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking, of course, maybe the Oakland on the road where Herman got the perfect game before he went completely off the rails. But again, Yankees have been going up against a lot of sub-500 teams or teams with a very similar record to them when they were a 500 team and just blowing opportunities to stay alive in the season. But this time they finally take care of business and actually look like a real good, competent baseball team doing it. The first couple of games, it was solid Yankee pitching, mainly by Severino, who picked it up from his last impressive start against the Nationals, going 7 innings, no runs, just giving 5 hits. So whatever problem he's been having or was having, maybe solved it out. Also got a nice defensive gem in the game in the opening one by Volpe, catching like 100-mile-per-hour line drive up the middle there and throwing a runner at home. And he also got some Yankee power. Judge, ending a big 0-for-17 skit with a home run of his own, and then Volpe later in the game also adding a home run. So the Yankees take the first one there, 4-1. And the second game pretty much similar. DJ actually getting off, and he's really been hitting well over the last several games with the long ball, showing some power. So again, is it Sean Casey? Is he finding something clicking in? Is his bottom half maybe feeling a little bit healthier? We don't know what it is, but him with going deep as well in Detroit. Gleyber Torres with a good series, hitting several home runs. Only blip for Torres will be in the final game there, which I'll get into in a second. But third game, Garrett Cole on the mound. Yankees, put a 2-spot early there in the first inning there and just keep adding on. And the Yankees, the first 3 games just make it look easy. The second game was kind of a half and half with, again, as they trying to transition Michael King to be a starter. Him going 4 innings and then going 3 innings with Johnny Brito. Both of them keeping Detroit off the board. It wasn't Clay Holmes until the 9th inning, giving up a couple of runs there. Just, I guess, maybe he's a little rusty or just whatever in garbage time. But nevertheless, never a situation where you thought the Yankees were in trouble. Again, first 3 games pretty much blew by really easily. The last game was kind of intriguing. Now, before the series even started, obviously, the news that they released Donaldson and they put Bader on waivers. Now, Bader was with the team for the first 3 games and played, but he was still there on waivers. And at the start of the 4th game, I guess that's when the move was made. I guess Bader knew about it. He found out. Supposedly he was a little teary-eyed in the clubhouse. He didn't even sure what the whole waiver thing was when he was first told about it, but he was picked up by the Cincinnati Reds, and it kind of makes sense. The Reds and the Cardinals spent a lot of time against each other in the National League Central, and sometimes, when you play against a player a lot, like I'm sure Bader played against the Reds a lot, you covet that player. Kind of reminds me of the Yankees in 2008. I think A.J. Burnett was like 5-0 with the Blue Jays against the Yankees. And so I'm sure as soon as free agency came around, like, let's get this guy so he's not beating us anymore. So sometimes you covet another player. So kind of makes sense why he would go to the Reds like that. And Reds, in the mix, having a good breakout season for Cincinnati, which is good for them. They've been waiting a while. So let's see what Bader does there. But he'll no longer be a New York Yankee. And the Yankees will be able to unload about the $800,000 left on the contract, so that's kind of what the Yankees get. They don't get a pick or any sort of the compensation or any draft picks like that. It's just unloading money for them, which I'm sure they're more than happy to do. And of course, now that the spot opens up, of course, no shock to all, Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells will be making their debuts Friday in Houston against the Astros, and kind of makes sense why they would want to free up center field for Dominguez to play out there. And I'm not what we're going to do with the catcher situation. I guess you could kind of work it out. Maybe they send Ben down, and then once you expand the rosters in September, maybe you could bring him back up. But I guess they wanted to get a good look at Austin Wells right now. I mean, we kind of know what Higgy is, and even he went deep in the Detroit series as well. I mean, all the Yankees did well in the Detroit series, but I guess give an opportunity. Let's just see what Wells could do for a month. So, who's it taking more playing time out of? I guess Ben Rovette, because Wells is a lefty hitter. Rovette's a lefty hitter, so I guess if you're looking at matchups. More often than not, if it's a right-handed pitcher, probably Austin Wells is going to get the majority of those starts over Higgy or even Ben Rovette. So, I don't think he'll eat too much Higgy's time. He'll probably eat more into Ben Rovette's playing time there. And, of course, Dominguez, obviously he's out the next Judge, supposedly, the next big thing, home run power, the Martian. We'll see if it all sticks, how it works out. And, it's kind of interesting throwing him right into the fire there in Houston against one of your main rivals there. So, they're going to get tested right away. But should at least close out the final Detroit game there, because even though the Yankees lost they actually showed you some heart, which this team has been lacking pretty much all the season. Clark Schmidt wasn't terrible, but the Yankees would eventually be in a 3-0 hole and kind of look like one of those sleepy Yankee games with no offense. It's almost like after you win the first three, you could almost like, whatever, it's a 1 o'clock game in Detroit. But with 2 runners on, Anthony Volpe with a big clutch 9th inning home run, something this team really hasn't had all season. Big clutch home run, ties the game up at that point, and it's a special home run for Volpe, made him a 2020 player, so for a rookie, Yankee rookie, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, so again, I think it was the right call to let him start the season here. I know you like to see a little bit more with the batting average, but still rather impressive to get a rookie to hit 2020 in his first season in pinstripes, and just hope he could just build on that for 2024. But this game came in the bottom of the 10th inning with the runners on. Jonathan Loáisiga on the mound, who he's been good actually since he's come back. A little comebacker up the middle. He threw to Gleyber Torres covering second for 1 out, but Gleyber with a bad throw to first base, and since it wasn't even close, the runner from third was able to score easily, and Detroit takes the final game in walk-off fashion in the 10th, 4-3 there. So again, Gleyber Torres hitting-wise had a good series, and overall, gotta say, past few weeks, other than Judge, he's probably been providing all the power for the Yankees. So this is going to be interesting how they want to address him in the offseason there. But you'd still see the occasional bonehead play for him a little bit, whether it's defensively on the base, making a running gaff, and he had this with a bad throw, which seemed like he had plenty of time. I mean, I don't know what happened with that one. But nonetheless, the bad throw caused Detroit to win there, and the Yankees weren't able to at least stay alive in extra innings, which, again, I think you'll take it, just the fact that you got the first 3 wins. Yes, they lost the last game, but just good to see them fight back in the 9th there with a big 3-run home run to tie it, and then whatever. Extra innings is extra innings with this Yankee team, and 2023 has been terrible. They've just been terrible in extra innings, especially on the road. He's got no shot. Previous seasons, even with the Ghost Runner, they would steal some wins sometimes. They're still able to find a way to get it done. That has not been the case for 2023, so you almost take it in stride. But again, with all the news going on, not the worst thing in the world, just for the fact you take 3 out of 4. Moving on to Houston now, and I guess we're going to finally get our first looks at Jason Dominguez there, and as well as Austin Wells. And really with the Bader and Donaldson move, even though it's pretty obvious at this time, I think that's the official signal, at least from the Yankee front office, that they're not making the postseason. So to see them chipping away, getting rid of Donaldson, getting rid of Bader, and not essentially getting rid of Bader, just offloading his money. And, if you want to check back the previous episode, I did a deeper dive into Donaldson, Bader, just kind of the backstory, how they got there, the trade evolved, and in the long run, was it good, was it bad? So I'm not going to really stretch that out. I kind of get into that if you want. You can listen to it if you want to listen to that episode. But overall, I think this is technically the official Yankee signal that, all right, this year's done. We're looking to next year. That's why we unload the veterans, and that's why you're seeing the young kids come up. And semi-curious, again, we finally have a little group here you could be a little interested in. I mean, you're not wowed by Peraza at this point. Pereira, okay, seems decent. All right, it's a little early, so you can't say one thing or another. But, got a little group there. You got Peraza, got Pereira. Of course, Volpe already up here. And now you get the 2 new guys, Dominguez and Austin Wells. So now you got 5 or 6 guys that, hey, let's see if these guys could click. Maybe they'll be a bit of a unit. Don't see it yet happening, but a little early. But at least, something you can at least dream about. And good to see finally Severino with 2 good starts in a row there, because he's someone else you'd have to make a big decision on in the offseason. Hey, this guy has been good for us in the past. He's relatively young. I mean, do we want to commit to this guy for another 2 or 3 years, or do we think he's finished and just let him walk? But then, a team like the Chicago White Sox picks him up, and then he's lights out, and you're kicking yourself in the pants. So you never want that to happen. So again, as long as he pitches well, I think it makes more of a case. I think all things being even, I think they'd rather extend him in here and have him stay as a Yankee. Obviously, health with him is always the problem. But, it's sort of like you rather have the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You know what Severino is, you know his strengths, you know he does get hurt, but you know what he is, versus taking a shot on someone else out there as a free agent. You never worked with him before, you just don't know what his whole deal is, and the whole thing could fall apart. So, but if he pitches well in September, I could see the Yankees leaning towards bringing him back there. So that's that situation. And for someone who's already signed, Carlos Rendon will get the nod in that Houston game to open him there. So he's had 2 decent starts to the road. You want to get a little more length out of him, but at least it's been decent there. So, Friday night, kind of teams are out, and you're sort of looking to football right now in preseason, stuff like that, especially with Aaron Rodgers in town. But now I think the Yankees at least have some a little bit more interesting, a little more juice to watching them, especially with some other players like, DJ LeMahieu hitting a little bit better, Stanton hitting a little bit better, and then with the young guys, hey, let's see what these guys can do for September. So that's the episode. A lot going on in the Yankees. Some old faces going out, new faces going in. They shockingly beat a team on the road 3 out of 4 games, and now we'll move ahead to Houston. So catch you on the next one.